Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Sawcruhteez Streamz, and I am your co-host, Tyler Coates. We're coming at you today, Sunday afternoon. Going to be taking a close look at my favorite markets, and that is going to be Bitcoin, Ethereum, gold, and the S&P 500. And have the lovely co-host with us today, looking fresh as a daisy. So how's things going out in the Netherlands?
Oh, you never said that to me, actually. In all the time that we've known each other, you never said that to me. I was waiting for the moment. Thank you, Tyler. You're looking fresh as a Tyler. Or fresh as a Socrates. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. I'm, greetings from Netherlands. Of course, it's evening here. It's 9 p.m. I'm looking forward to your opinion about everything that's happened in the markets this last week. And I think we got a lot to discuss. I'll be keeping my eye on the live chat. So, guys, if you have any questions, just tag me in the live chat. I just posted a message there. So I'll try to ask all the questions. I cannot promise that Tyler will answer all of them, but I'll do my best. Let's dive into it. What do you want to cover today, Tyler?
All right. Yeah, I appreciate you keeping your eye out on the questions. Been getting a lot of good questions from the live chat and the private group on Telegram. So we'll do our best to get through all of those, and can't promise, as she said, but we will definitely try. Was taking a look at one of the things that people were asking about. We'll see how much time we've got, and if there is time, we will come back to it. Going to be starting out with Bitcoin, and before we do that, I do want to make sure everybody is aware that I will be putting on a webinar basically a week from yesterday. The 6th of June is when the webinar for the MSR trader mode is scheduled, and there's a lot of really good content that I'm excited to go through. I'm going to be working hard to get that together over this next week. I already have a really good outline, and really excited about the opportunity to not only have the initial session on June 6th, but then after that, there will be a follow-up scheduled for July 11th. And in the interim, for that about 5-week period, I'm going to be sharing my analysis and my process on a day-to-day basis to help people basically first understand an approach that can be implemented to trade MSR, and then what's more important is the process that's where people will often maybe come up a little short, even if they do have a really good system. If they don't have a really good process that they can stick to and commit to on a regular basis, then that is going to really inhibit their ability to make money from trading in the market. So that's what I'm really excited about. It's going to be a unique webinar in the sense that it's going to be 2 sessions spread out between 5 weeks, and then in the interim will be very hands-on analysis to really show in real time the concepts that are taught in the classroom, which should help people to really sink their teeth into those concepts, and then hopefully also help them to start to develop their own process for themselves. So here's an example of the process that I use. I'm calling it the weather report. Shows you analysis from the S&P, gold, Bitcoin. Oh, no, Ethereum. That should have been on there because that is something I follow on a day-to-day basis. And this is what I'll be basically teaching people how to do. And then that'll be a really good foundation for them to go ahead and A, understand how MSR is traded, and then B, have a really good process to maximize your time and your ability to capitalize on these moves. So here's a description for the follow-up webinar, and come down to the bottom, and it's very similar to anybody that signed up to the indicator. Just basically same thing. I've been getting some signups coming in so far, so that's been really great. Appreciate everybody that has signed up. I am very much looking forward to that. And now, without any go ahead.
Because last stream you were talking about a mentorship, and I see somebody in a live chat saying that he lost all his funds, and he's asking if he can get a rain check on the webinar. Maybe you can explain one more time about your program, about your mentorship program.
Yeah, yeah, it is I guess it's not a one-on-one situation. It is going to be a group basis that is going on throughout. After the first webinar is complete, I'm going to set up a Telegram group that is a read-only, where I'm going to be posting my weather reports, and then I will be doing my best to answer questions in the Eye of the Storm chat group, where people have been very active. So it isn't a one-on-one mentorship that I am able to offer at this time, but I am doing my best to do that on like a group basis. So after the first webinar, I will be sharing my analysis on a regular basis, showing my conclusions that I'm coming to for the markets that I follow, and that should help people to start to establish that process themselves. And then any questions that they had, I'll be doing my best to answer. And then in the follow-up session, that is a big part of that is going to be Q&A, and that's going to be a really good way for people to implement what is taught in real time and then come back with some good questions to ask. So that is the program that I'm offering. I'm not sure if I'm necessarily considering it a mentorship program, or if I maybe misspoke in the past, but it is just basically a very hands-on webinar that will be much more than just the what the typical few hours on a Zoom session, that sort of thing.
Yeah, maybe my terminology is wrong. Maybe maybe that's a language barrier here. But I thought you said you were gonna let somebody follow something for free for a month or something.
That's a scholarship program. Yes, absolutely. We've been getting some good applicants. Anybody that can't afford $500, if that's not affordable for individuals, then I invite you to apply for the scholarship, and I will be committing to adding one person per month who basically, if you submit your application, I'll be choosing one person a month who is the best, who qualifies the best. And then if you're not selected, your application will be put on file for future months, so that if you don't win the first month, it will be still an opportunity to win in future months. And yeah, I invite anybody who cannot afford $500 and does want to learn how to trade to go ahead and apply to the scholarship program. Shoot me an email at sawcruhteez@gmail.com or msrindicator@gmail.com. I'm going to get up a page here for that, but I don't have it yet. For now, you can just send me an email, and I'll do my best to get back to you as soon as possible. Okay, let's go ahead.
Yeah, so it's a scholarship. Sorry, I made it mentorship, but I'm not like don't keep me liable for anything.
That's all right. Appreciate you keeping an eye out there. So, what are we seeing in Bitcoin? Seeing some really interesting stuff. Have been paying very, very close attention to this action, and not basically what we were looking at in the last episode. We got a nice reaction from the signal. So the last episode, I believe it was on this candle here, or something like this right in here. We were taking a close look at the buy signal from the 4-hour MSR chart and looking at it as being a very good buy signal based on support above the critical horizontal level that confirms the reversal. And talked about how I was buying in here, and then buying again in here, and buying again in here. So did build a significant position, and now I have started to trim some of that. Only 1 out of my 3 orders did get filled. I am looking at trimming close to the sky. This is the trim zone. This was where I first looked to trim due to price testing the trim zone after giving a good buy signal. And here we are after the buy signal here. Had my orders set basically from like, let me see if I can figure out exactly, because I did get 1 order filled out of 3, even though price didn't get to the sky, which I will generally layer orders kind of around there. And what I'm looking at now was a fill at 96.82. So I had orders from 96.82 up to 97.60, 97.60 being the bottom of this sky. And sometimes I'll layer orders from the bottom of the sky up to the moon, and then other times I'll be a little bit more conservative. And did share a chart in the Telegram group just showing that I'm seeing a kind of confluence of horizontal resistance that is lining up with the sky. And I want to say I would have been looking at that right there. So this was where I was being more conservative with my trim orders because we did have this horizontal area of resistance that was right in line with the sky. So I was hoping that my conservative orders would all get filled and that we would do, come up to the sky at least briefly to get those orders filled. And now that only 1 out of 3 orders was filled, it basically means that I won't be able to re-add if we just pull back from here. I'll just have to be happy with improving my cost basis, and that is basically the main objective of trimming. And then if I do get a good spot and get all my orders filled, then I can actually look at buying back. For example, when I was buying in here, trimmed a little bit here and then buying back in here. So that is how I will be looking to trade the MSR trader mode, and I will be using that on all time frames on all assets. So we will be taking a look at some other assets here real quickly before we do.
So for viewers, it's very important that what you just mentioned is that so you had multiple orders out and you only got one of them filled. And you're very diligent about your price points where you want to enter the order. And if they do not get filled, you never chase them, right? You never just change your books and still get the fills because you think the market's going to go some way.
Absolutely, and that's I'm glad that you reiterated that point because it's very, very important that basically if my orders don't get filled up in here, then I just have to, then so be it. I'm not going to chase those orders down and to where I would view it as basically a fair market value. And that is kind of how I think about these markets, is that price is always either undervalued or overvalued, and it is very rarely at a fair market value. And that's what the 50 EMA is for me on MSR, is it's the indicator that tells me what is the fair market value. And if I'm buying or selling at the fair market value, I'm not really expecting to gain or lose anything. What's my edge if I'm just buying at a fair market value, unless I'm really planning on holding for a long time or something like this. So right in here, I am looking to trim around the sky and buy around the beach. And if it comes up very closely and I don't get, say, any of the orders filled or only partial, and then the price comes back down to this fair market value area, well, it's just not, there's no meat on the bone, basically. I would be trimming at 95, hoping to buy back around like 92 to 93. Just isn't going to be worth, it's not really going to be worth it at all. And furthermore, it's not that much above where I originally entered. So I'd have to sell a lot to have any meaningful impact on my cost basis. So I'm not interested in really doing anything when market's at fair market value. That's when I'm interested in just waiting and being patient. And when you're patient, the hardest thing for most people is going to be when you have orders set to enter and price gets really close to that entry without actually letting you in. For example, if you had buy orders right in here, and price comes very close and then turns around and makes a move before you get filled, this is where a lot of people will have trouble letting the market go away from them. If it is part of your system to buy breakouts, then that's way different than what I'm talking about. And it's very reasonable. Like, think about a green 2 above a green 1. You're buying breakouts, things that are going away from you, patterns, same thing. So it's very reasonable to have that approach, whereas in MSR, in the way that I trade and how I approach it, I'm trying to enter in on counter trend corrections. And if the counter trend corrections aren't getting to my zones to enter, I have to be patient and have the ability to let the market leave me behind, because if I don't, then what happens is I'll find myself buying in here thinking that price is never going to get down here, and then when it finally does get down there, now I'm stuck in an underwater position and I can't actually execute the actual signals I want. So some very important points there, and thank you, Daisy, for
hey, good explanation. Yeah, that's good. I think that this will help some people.
I'm glad to hear it. So a couple other things I want to take a look at here. Let's see what the 12-hour chart looks like. Have been really holding my breath and hoping for a bit of a ascending triangle to form, and we are seeing some pretty good signs of that. So let's take a look at where my orders were set that we didn't get to was kind of right up in here at this horizontal area, and what I've really been wanting is to get another test of this and then to come back down here, and then that would be the last good buying opportunity before breaking through 10,000 as far as I'm concerned. That's what my analysis is telling me. So that's what I've been really wanting to see. A ascending triangle after the halving would just be a perfect situation to break through a very important psychological level of 10,000. And if that doesn't happen, I think what will happen instead would be a symmetrical triangle, which the symmetrical triangle is more neutral in my mind. It shows support moving up and resistance moving down, so much more neutral than horizontal resistance and higher lows for support. That being said, I would still view this with a bullish bias, and symmetrical triangles for me, they are neutral in a vacuum, but no charts are ever in a vacuum, so I will always assume that the trend is going to favor a neutral pattern. So if we are in a neutral symmetrical triangle and the trend is bullish, well then I think that it's more likely to break to the upside than the downside. And if it does break to the upside, it's more likely to have follow through than if it breaks to the downside. If it's a neutral pattern in a bull market that breaks to the downside, and much more risky of a trap or a shakeout before a breakout. So even if this does just form a symmetrical triangle instead of the ascending triangle, I still will be viewing it with a bullish bias. And something that I have been, a couple things I've been paying close attention to as of late, the 50 EMA on the 12-hour chart has been a tremendous tool for identifying trends and resistance and support and all that. So back here, when we broke down in the fall of 2019, the 12-hour 50 EMA was nice resistance there. We got above but failed to support it, and then it turned it right back into resistance through here, and then we fought it right in here and did get above, and then turned it back into support. Tried to support it here, failed to do so. Once we broke down the 50 EMA on the 12-hour chart, that's when it really turned from bullish to bearish. And then we proceeded to have lower highs, lower lows, and then here we broke it down, and then here we threw back and resisted it to confirm the reversal or bear trend. Here we resist it, and then here we start turning it into support. And this was where we really started to see some signs that the trend was turning back bullish. Here we got nice support. And then here we got something similar that we were kind of seeing back in here, where it tries to break it down with a close below, turn into resistance, but then it fails to do so, and boom, you get a nice reaction back to the upside. So I'm really liking what we saw off of this 50 EMA on the 12-hour chart. I was worried once we were starting to break it down with this lower low and then turn it into resistance. But that was just I think a head fake and a stutter step before this happened there afterwards. So it got scary, but it has held, and now I will expect this 50 EMA on the 12-hour to remain as support as long as this trend is in a bullish posture. And something else that is... Yep.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, please.
I want to throw in some questions also, because otherwise you're just going to keep on.
Yes, please do.
Somebody is asking in the live chat, what is your percentage chance that we can see the 6K area before we see the 14K area? Because you're on a higher time frame chart, so I think this is a good time to ask that question.
Yeah, it is a really good question, and that I want to say I'll give it 25% for 6K and 75% for 14. The 75 level is basically my line in the sand, that if there is some sort of head fake shakeout, that I would want it to support 75. And if it does fall below that, even briefly, I would really want it to support the kind of 63 to 65 area. If we break down this level here, everything changes. Trend resumes its bearish posture, and if we resume a bearish trend at these prices, it would be very bad as far as I'm concerned, and I would be getting fully out. So I really would not want to see this thing fall below 65 basically again, and that is due to the technicals and also due to the stock to flow ratio and how Bitcoin has had a tendency to be right around the stock to flow model that 100 trillion USD has put together at the halvings, which this year was around 7,500, and then after the halvings, that is a price that is never seen again, and that is what I am very much hoping is the case here. But hope is just that, it's just a hope. If I have to give it a percentage, I would feel actually pretty confident that 14K should be seen before 6,500, and not financial advice, just an opinion. So appreciate the question.
Okay, thanks.
All right. So another thing that I've been paying very close attention to is the Fibonacci retracements levels after really getting some very, very good information from Fiboswani on a stream a couple weeks ago. Those that haven't seen it, I would highly recommend you to check it out because I have really only been using two tools to complement MSR since having trader mode developed, and that is TRDR, the Joe Saz's signals that are available on TRDR, and using those to confirm some of my entries, and then also using the Fibonacci's to confirm some trend stuff. And here, what we see, you have to look really closely if you want to see the 0.236 level, but if we start from the bottom and draw it to the top, this consolidation has not had a 12-hour close below the 0.236 level. Extremely bullish. When you consolidate above 0.236, that is basically as bullish as it gets for me. And you would expect price to come back to the 0.382 on this correction, and that's where the buying opportunities, generally people are really waiting to take some significant positions, would be on the 0.382 retracement. And being that we have topped and consolidated sideways and failed to retrace to 0.382, it tells me that people are front running and that support is really moving up in a significant way. And seeing the refusal of price to close below 0.236 is very intriguing to me. And then something else that I would do is take it up to my breakout point where things really started to change, was when we broke through this 74 to 7,500 level. And if we move our fib up to there, what we see is that at first, the first pullback came to 0.618, found strong support there, and then we came back to nearly test the zero, the full retracement, and then the next pullback came right to the 0.5. So this is where I'm looking for the next pullback to support this shallow 0.382, because that would be just a beautiful move up of support, where first they're buying 0.618, next one buying 0.5. If the next one supports 0.382, now that really gives us that ascending sort of formation, which I will be paying very close attention to, and absolutely I'm looking to buy back around 92 to 93, anything if I am able to get some trim orders filled. Okay, so that
higher lows, but also see lower highs. So I don't know. It has to confirm, I guess.
And yeah, it very much could be a symmetrical triangle at this point. If this tops out right here, then we would have to say it's higher lows and lower highs. If this move is able to get up to here, just like right here, now we can really start to say it's ascending. So that's what I'm really hoping for, is that it gets up to here, but it's starting to look like that's not going to happen based on it's starting to see some signs of a top. Okay. Any other questions about Bitcoin before moving to Ethereum?
Oh yeah, definitely. Let me.
Uh-oh. Did you?
A lot of questions about Bitcoin. Are you considering the possibility that the upcoming weekly nine could play out like the 9 from a year ago that broke us out from 4,200? I'm looking for a dip, but the 9 can be significant. So it's 1 year ago, 9 weekly. You understand the question?
Yeah, we could take a look. Interesting to see that 12-hour recently topped on a 9. And he's asking about
it's a
weekly.
About the weekly.
And okay, so we are on a weekly 8, and he wants to know if it could play out like from a year.
The 9 from a year ago that broke us out from 4,200.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that this is a lot different. It's a good question, but I do think this is different in that when this 9 happened, it wasn't a 9 to me, because the 1 to the 8, it was just basically sideways. Before this 9 happened, I mean, we were stuck in a really tight range. And if we look at the 1 to the 8, I mean, it did move, but it didn't get out of this range. And then on the 9, once we did finally break through 42, it was a big, sharp pop that went hard and fast. And this is a lot different to me, because preceding this 9, we've had a massive run from the 1s around 67, and now the 8s around 93. Potentially, we could have a 9 like that smashes us through the 10,000 level, but I'm not seeing the similarities there myself. This 9 is more like something like this, I think, where there's a big run up before, and now I would wait to see if a correction is able to find support quickly, and that's where I will look at the ADX as one of my basically favorite tools to help me confirm exhaustion levels. And this is actually really interesting in that we did get the bullish crossover with the plus DI crossing the negative DI, and this was an important signal to me. When these DIs cross on the weekly, it is a good trend indicator. But then what followed is that they failed to really spread out and diverge and gain momentum. And now we have the ADX moving down below 20 as we're nearing a 9 on the weekly, which is not a good sign as far as I'm concerned. The bulls really, I'm trying to understand how they didn't establish more momentum on this move that has, I guess, now kind of stalled out. So the ADX with the TD sequential is suggesting that we should see a correction after the 9, and therefore I would conclude that I don't think it should turn out like this, but a lot can change very, very quickly. One candle can change. Like right here, we had the DI's negative cross above the positive, the momentum waning, and then in one candle, all that changed. So it could happen. It's something to pay attention to, but right now the ADX is saying not to expect it.
Okay, thank you. People asking if you can have a look at the adoption curve chart for Bitcoin.
Okay, thank you for reminding me. Okay, where is it? It is going to be the Bitcoin logarithmic growth curve. Okay, log. And it is continuing to look really nice. After we close back above this line, we have proceeded to really turn it into support, which is very, very important. And last week, we did have a down week, but it has seemed to find support on that area, and now we have the open finding support there as well. So things are still looking quite good. I was very worried about this resisting a throwback, and so far it's looking to me like a classic trap when you have this sort of V shakeout around a major boundary, and then you turn it back into support instead of into resistance. Now looking for, maybe something like this where you grind sideways on it for a few weeks, a month, maybe two, and then you start to build some momentum off of it. So everything's looking good as long as we are continuing to close above that threshold.
Cool. Another question. Bitcoin market cap dominance check, please.
Okay, great question, and that will lead into what we're wanting to look at with ETH BTC. I basically view the market cap dominance as very similar to the ETH BTC chart, being that ETH BTC is the market leader and the biggest market cap. So we should come to some very similar conclusions, but we will want to look at them both. So first thing that I've been keeping an eye on is this trend line that broke down. So we did have this bullish trend line as we create higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, and then it failed to support here. And now that we've broken it down, what I would want to look for is prior horizontal turning into support. Horizontals are more important than trend lines. If the trend line breaks down but prior horizontal resistance becomes support, that is indicative of a market moving up, and that is more important than a potential trend line. So that's when I'll also want to take a look at the fibs. It looks like we're supporting at a really nice spot. Sure enough, here is the 0.236 level right here. And similar to Bitcoin USD, this move is finding support well before 0.382 as of now, and is really turning the most bullish level into support pretty convincingly, in that we are not closing weeklies below, and we just had a higher low that looks like it is ready to continue the trend. So definitely see a reason. I was concerned when that trend line broke, but now I'm feeling like there is every reason in the world to expect more upside. And let's go ahead and take a look at MSR.
Yeah, the question was from your live chat, and the people wanted you to look at it through MSR also. So
excellent. So appreciate that. And that is something that's cool about MSR is that it can be used on all assets, and then even some assets that are kind of abnormal in terms of Bitcoin market cap dominance isn't a traditional sort of asset that you'll be looking at, but it's still something that MSR should be very effective with. And this is something I like to pay very close attention to, is this sort of FOMO run that results in a huge shooting star. Basically, this is your trap where everybody gets very bullish on Bitcoin against alts, and then you just get smacked down. And that also happened back in here. Generally, there's going to be a significant reaction after something like this happens. Here we had, this, and that's where I would basically look to put a fractal pattern after that last one there. So here we go. That is what I would be expecting out of BTC.D over the next month. For the month of May, I'm seeing strong signs of chop, and I'll be talking about why MSR is telling me to be on the watch out for chop during the webinar. So I'm seeing it from MSR, and then I'm also seeing it from just a fractal here with this massive shooting star that leads to the price getting driven down into support, and then when you have a kind of this double top where price resists 2 times in the same area, that's where I look for a return to the support zone. So we do have resistance here after resistance here, and pay attention to this critical horizontal that an MSR gives us that tells us if we reverse bullish, it's an unconfirmed reversal as long as we are below the marker, which is the critical horizontal level. So that's one of the things that is telling me to be on the watch out for chop, as we get a reversal that is unconfirmed with price resisting below the critical horizontal. It tries to get above, but when it does, it is at resistance from the sky and from the moon, and it quickly turns that back into resistance. So I will be looking for a range over the next month or so, and that is most of the reason why.
Okay, cool, thanks.
My pleasure. All right. So let's go and just dig right into the ETH BTC chart.
Yeah, okay.
And we'll
spend a lot of people asking about ETH BTC.
And I am, it's in a very interesting spot right now. I am very much looking to build a position today, and I am going to share why. Let's see here. So have been waiting for ETH to get back up to this area of resistance, and am looking for it to develop a bit of a descending triangle. Have been looking for this basically since we had this lower high and then a double bottom. Is the perfect recipe for a descending triangle, and I like to start by looking at patterns and paying very, very close attention to patterns, because when we're inside patterns, that's when MSR can leave something to be desired. In terms of patterns are going to be very choppy, and the bigger the range, the harder it can be to capitalize on that, depending on your time frame and your time horizon. So when I am seeing some sort of pattern, I'm going to want to very much take that into account to complement MSR signals. So this is my sell zone. And basically, the first thing I have to do after finishing this stream is to go enter a position. I'm not saying that anybody else should. I'm just talking about what I'm doing.
So financial advice.
That's exactly right. So here, I would really want to see price not even wick above this level here. If it does, that invalidates my descending triangle and tells me that I'm wrong about the setup. And as long as we are in this kind of confluence of resistance from horizontal and trend, it's a good spot as far as I'm concerned. So we'll be looking for this to resist around here, come back down to support, and then break down from there. Basically, what I'm looking for is just that. And then we've got critical horizontals down around here that would make a lot of sense to do. That will be what I'm looking for. It is looking bad, and one of the main things, it's looking bad from technicals and fundamentals.
Yeah, good. There was another question from the live chat. Fundamentals, ETH. Go on.
Oh, perfect. So the what has been driving Bitcoin, the price appreciation in Bitcoin over the last couple months since it found that major bottom, has been organic demand. It's been people actually buying Bitcoin, spot Bitcoin, and holding on to it. So it's actual organic demand for the asset. What has been driving Ethereum, more so even than other alts that I have seen, is speculative interest. Let's just go ahead and take a look at a chart very quickly. We'll just need to delete all these lines 1 second, and what we're going to do is go over to the ETH BT, or I think it's actually ETH USD longs. So here is the chart for ETH USD longs on Bitfinex. It is completely blown through the roof at all-time highs. Yeah. And that is what is causing any the demand.
That looks like a Ponzi scheme.
I can't argue with that. The only demand that I can tell that is coming in for Ethereum is from people who are just basically expecting the same thing to happen again. In the past, where Bitcoin goes up, and if you miss out on that move, you just go buy Ethereum and wait for it to follow. And that's what everybody has
Yeah.
been doing. And the trade is becoming a little bit too obvious as far as I'm concerned. And now that we're seeing Bitcoin going up and Ethereum really being weighed down by the speculative longs in terms of the funding rates have been through the roof on Ethereum, and they have not been on Bitcoin. Bitcoin has been basically at par and sometimes even longs getting paid, while Ethereum longs have been paying 10x or more the normal
Yeah,
rate.
rates are crazy. Yeah, I'm seeing the new BitConnect here, to be honest.
It's something that, and then on top of that is the ETH 2.0 that they are moving to proof of stake, which is um, definitively not a blockchain as far as I'm concerned. The only thing that makes a blockchain valuable is proof of work and decentralization, and Ethereum has neither. And it was easy for them to kind of fool the market last time around in 2017 when you just have a really intelligent talking head like Vitalik Buterin spouting off his idealistic ideas. People really, it's easy for them to fall for it when they don't have a good comprehensive understanding of what Bitcoin is and what blockchain is. And now that is completely different. People are, the market is getting more sophisticated. People are wisening up to what gives Bitcoin value. No longer are you hearing people say blockchain, not Bitcoin. It's a market that is evolving, and it's going to do so by leaving Ethereum behind, and specifically the bag holders of Ethereum tokens, and then the projects that are built on top of the Ethereum blockchain. If Ethereum blockchain goes down, every single alt that is built on the Ethereum blockchain is likely to go down as far as I'm concerned, much more likely than not. So as they have really been botching this transition to ETH 2.0, and they have been strong-arming miners into moving over and essentially making it a one-time thing where you can't move back. It is a situation where it is becoming very, very clear to market participants and investors, long-term investors, that this is not what they once thought it was. This is not a decentralized blockchain. It's not a blockchain at all. And therefore, what value is this adding to the world, and does it justify the enormous market cap that it currently has? And what we're seeing right now is nobody buying it other than leveraged speculators. And that is the definition of a bubble that is needing to really pop. So I completely agree with you that it looks like a Ponzi scheme, and likely because it shares a lot of those characteristics as well. So let's look.
Good short.
I think it is something that I am very interested in this short position, and I do want to look at where can I go wrong? Where am I going to really need to be paying close attention to where this trade falls apart? And we're at very important time right now. If this does create a new high above this area here, above 0.026, changes everything, and tells me that it might be too early for the short, and that I might be able to get a much better price. I mean, Lord knows this thing could go all the way back up here before it ends up crashing. So that's why you have to have risk management, and you have to have a system that you trust in. So here I'm going to be paying very close attention for this trend line to hold as resistance. And then here, I'm going to be paying very close attention for this trend line to get broken down and to not hold as support. And this is a major signal of strength, being that this sell-off didn't come back to this trend line and has now created a significantly higher low. Is a signal of strength. So I'm going to be paying very close attention to this boundary in here. And when we're up around here, I think it's a really good opportunity to short, as long as this trend line stays intact. Good opportunity for me, not necessarily anybody watching. So quick look at MSR, and then we'll see if we have any questions. Okay. So here is our area. that I am very, very interested in selling. This is the buoy of the ocean, which is a very important area of support or resistance. Time and time again, this level gets respected, and I am very interested in entering in my shorts right around here, because if I have to get out, it will be hopefully at a similar price, unless a really big sharp move happens in the meantime. So as we are stuck in this range, we do see that the underworld did hold his support on this move down. On this one, it reversed kind of right at the worst time, right near the bottom. And again, that's, for me, it wouldn't be a sell signal because we're not in the beach. And here, this is where I'm really interested in selling based on that trend line and the potential for the descending triangle. And I do also just want to take a look at the hourly. We have been getting some really good signals on the hourly. Let's see here. While we've been in this range, the hourly has done a really good job of providing signals. Let's just go back to the closer. Okay, here we go. At around 0.185, I look at this beautiful support from horizontal, just beautiful support from the ocean, providing long entries right in here at a very, very good time. Here's your trimming area, and then here's the storm that calls for a reversal and tells you not to buy anymore right at the right time. And then after this reversal comes here, we fight around that marker for a little bit, and the resistance from the buoy right up in here, look at that, just perfect, leads to a nice move down. And here's the signal that I really want to see. This is my signal where we have confluence of resistance from the marker, the horizontal, and then the beach, and then the moving averages. Beautiful signal right there. And then we get down to local lows and get a storm, which predicts the reversal and tells you not to sell this area anymore. And it's just amazing how effective this can be. We're right here, just basically the same price. The same price, you're able to sell. Here's your sell signal, and then here's your trim or take profit signal at the sky. And then as soon as this disappears is when you would start getting the bad signals. So love seeing that. And then we get the nice storm calling for a reversal, and then up into these levels here. Some nice signals in here. And then here would be a bad signal. This would be, we basically buy, sell, and then here we buy, don't get our opportunity to sell. Here's our stop loss zone, so we take that small loss, and now we're back into a spot where I would be really paying close attention to this horizontal and this beach holding as support. If we do look like we're breaking down and then we find support from here, that is something that I'll be paying very close attention to. So 1 hour charts on altcoins have been working really well and have almost become preferred to me than the 4 hour because they are more volatile. And the rule of thumb is the more volatile the market, the better it is to use a lower time frame is my rule of thumb. So before moving on, any questions you're seeing? Oh, you might be on mute.
The questions I have are about the stock market. Well, I can just tell you, because you're going to cover it anyways. How are the national rioting fundamentals affecting stock market? So, you know, all the riots happening in all the cities around the USA. A lot of people asking you in your chat, in live chat, fundamentals, S&P. So let's cover that first, and maybe you can end up with gold.
Sounds good to me. And my opinion is that what's going on right now in America with the riots is probably going to be more important for Bitcoin than the S&P. And that's just my opinion. I'm not the guy to go to for fundamental analysis. I just try my best to understand what's going on. And if COVID isn't going to take down the stock market, I don't think that this will either, because what are the riots going to do? Are they putting anybody out of business? There's going to be looting and that sort of stuff happening for sure. But is that going to have anywhere close to the level of impact of the entire stinking economy shutting down? They are going to put in, I've heard of curfews and this sort of stuff. And is a curfew going to affect the economy if the bars and restaurants aren't even open anyways? So I do not really understand how this would have a major impact on the stock market when COVID shut down the entire economy and the thing just goes up as a result of money printing. So maybe the combination of COVID plus riots will cause it to topple over, but I don't understand why that would be the case from a fundamental perspective, because the riots don't seem to be shutting down businesses or impacting the economy in even 1% of the way that COVID did. So that being said, this type of environment is when we should expect to see a lot of demand for Bitcoin. This type of civil unrest and is going to cause people to buy guns, buy more ammo, stock up on food, and when they start to think about the safety of their money in the bank account, they're going to start to think about buying gold and buying Bitcoin. Maybe they decide to sell stocks to do so, and that selling pressure on the stocks could really have a significant impact. I don't think that that's necessarily the case. So I do think that the situation right now is going to be more important to Bitcoin and gold than the S&P 500, but we still do want to take a look, see what's going on there. And let's take a look at the weekly close. Just flying away. And let's take a look at the daily.
Yeah, let people know if you're bearish or bullish on the S&P.
Yeah, if that wasn't clear, I am very bearish on the S&P as a result of, well, from a fundamental perspective, it makes 0 sense for the S&P to be at these price levels. It made 0 sense to me, these prices, before COVID happened. When the whole economy was churning along and everything was honky-dory, I couldn't understand the valuations of these stocks as a result of the primary demand was that I could tell is from companies buying back their own stocks. And the main reason why we got up to 3,000 in the first place was not from organic demand, it was from manipulation and from companies buying their own stocks to pump their price, similar to what altcoins do, basically. So I couldn't understand
they're
these.
Still doing it right now with their borrowed money. They're still buying it back with their borrowed money right now. So
100%. So yeah, I mean, I couldn't understand these levels from a fundamental perspective when we first got there. Now that COVID has shut down the entire economy and unemployment is at levels that we haven't seen since the Great Depression, and they're printing money, as much money as we spent to fight Hitler, is how much money they are printing to prop this thing up. It is something that basically it makes absolutely 0 sense from a fundamental perspective. But the other thing is, if you can't beat them, you might as well join them. If money printing is going to send this to the moon and it makes no sense, and you can't understand why, well, at a certain point, you just have to throw your hands up in the air and say, screw it. I'm just going to, bet with the money printers instead of against them. And we're almost at that point for me. I am short. This has been my sell zone that I've been talking about. If we get back above this level, then I am going to be throwing my hands up in the air and saying, screw this, because I have been expecting this thing to just fall apart for a while now. And it gets really frustrating every time that it should break down, as far as I'm concerned, for technical reasons and fundamental reasons. Like right here, you get your double top, lower high, lower low. Perfect time for this thing to break down, and I was fully expecting it to do so. And instead, what happens? Just the money printers come in and gap up the market. That just makes you sick after long enough. And then right here, what am I expecting? I'm expecting a big top. We're on a 9. We've got reversal candles. We get this close that is just really bad. And instead of breaking down when we're ready to, just pops right back up. So it's been a very frustrating trade. I'm right now, I think, a little bit underwater, but not too much because I did get good entries. I got in around 29.25 and added around 3,000. So it is just hard to continually take these perfect technical setups that are also backed by fundamental explanations and to watch the market just continually melt against you. And that's goes to show you that trading is not easy, even when everything is lining up and you think you got a really good trade on the table. Often you just end up getting very, very frustrated and making no money.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
this 0.618 has been very important to me. This is what I was wanting to hold. Here we came up and resisted, got lower low after lower high, and it was perfect for this to come back down. And once you break through 0.618, it does call for a full retrace back up to about 3,400, which just doesn't make any sense. But the markets can remain irrational longer than we can remain solvent, specifically if we are not managing risk properly.
S&P definitely more volatile over the last half a year than it was before. It's almost like Bitcoin. Well, it's like Bitcoin. So it's making these crazy moves, and
Yep.
I hope your position goes well, but I really don't know what to think about it. Also, with the money printing, it's just so manipulated.
Yep, it's one of those spots that I almost part of me hopes that it doesn't go well and that the stock market just for the rest of my life keeps going up and up and up and up and up, and part of me hopes for that, because if this thing does really collapse and fall apart, I mean, we're in for potentially a really significant recession and or depression. So yeah, I would love to short the top before a recession, but what I would probably prefer is to get stopped out at a very small loss, and then to have the economy just recover and keep moving forward. And I'm an American who is more interested in the health of our overall economy than the health of my single position. So it's kind of a good spot to be betting against the stock market. If it doesn't work out in my favor, then hopefully it means that everybody still has a job and their homes. So okay.
Daniela is asking if you can just put the MSR over the S&P, please.
Yeah, thank you. I was just pulling that up. He was reading our minds. So getting a sell signal on MSR daily. We got the reversal. We failed to resist the critical horizontal, giving us an unconfirmed reversal, and now we are up in the beach, and that is our sell signal right here on the 4-hour. We are also getting a sell signal, and it is getting close. Notice how thin the beach is. The ocean is very, very thin. Generally, we're used to seeing it, I mean, it's not that thin, but generally it's going to be significantly thicker, where the buoy and the bottom and the top of the ocean are all at very similar prices. So this is where we need to hold. We've got the buoy at 30.91. We've got the underworld starting at 31.26, and then we've got the marker at 32. So that's it. That's my do or die level. If we fail to turn this marker into resistance and we just smash right through it, then that is going to be it for me in this short position.
Okay, clear.
Great. I guess time to take a look at gold.
Gold, yeah, gold with timeline. I mean, of course, there's going to be a timeline. Somebody asked, can you look at gold with a timeline? But I mean, there's no chart without a timeline, so.
Yep, I appreciate the.
That would actually be interesting. A chart without a timeline.
It might be interesting. I'll have to think about that. So yeah, at the end of last week's show, I guess it was actually this week on Thursday, Daisy and I did an extra episode to compare MSR to some of the other most popular indicators. And at the very end, I started going into the spiel about the webinars and the indicator and, selling the products that I have created. And that's when I know that most people will just tune right out and shut off the stream. And that was when I thought it'd be nice to give a bonus analysis at the end of the episode when for those that did stick around to support what I do. And it was important because it was at a really good setup, and those that have been watching this episode closely and that are starting to understand MSR would remember me talking about looking for this perfect setup of a marker, critical horizontal that's in line with the beach. So now we've got the confirmed reversal with the price above that critical horizontal, and when it comes down, when that horizontal is in line with the 200 EMA or the top of the beach, it is one of my best setups. So that was something I was paying very close attention to, and I did get filled right here at 1700. That was where I was setting an order to add to my long based on the 4-hour beach, and now we got a bounce that resisted the 50 EMA and then got a higher low, and now we've broken through the 50 EMA. So I would look for this to turn into support around 1724, and then I would look for the sky to act as resistance around 1750. So that will be where I am looking to trim and take a little bit of profit, and also just seeing a lot of similarities with gold and Bitcoin. They are in very similar setups. So I'll be continuing to pay close attention to that. And just real quickly, I'm going to walk through why I think they're in such similar spots. This will just take a moment. We're going to pull up two charts and compare them side by side.
Fibbo's on, I think. Yeah. Hey, Fibbo.
Howdy, Fibbo. Good to see you. And been taking a close look at some fibs today as I have really started to value using those in my analysis. So big shout out, thank you very much for the lessons and the information that you shared here on this stream very recently. So thanks again. All right, we're just going to compare gold to Bitcoin, and hopefully I can do it in a way that people are going to be able to see. One second. Okay. Yeah, it's going to, I guess, maybe be a little tricky, but we'll do our best here. And it's not...
You can put auto off, and then you can make the chart higher, like pull it out more. If you want to drop the dips.
So what I'm wanting to do is get this out of here. I don't know why it's not letting me hide it, other than if I hide the whole indicator.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Okay.
All right, so we are just gonna take. Man, this is frustrating. Why can't this? Whatever. Okay.
It looks like you have two charts up. Like in your right above corner, it says two charts. So you should make it one chart.
Yeah, I was hoping.
In your settings, in the top hand. So you.
I was hoping to compare the two charts side by side to make it easier for people to see, but it's not going to let me do that. So. Whatever, just looking at reversal, price in the sky, test of the beach, a return to the sky, return to the beach, and then that ascending triangle that follows. We got the reversal on MSR with the price in the sky. It then comes to the beach, comes to the sky, perfectly resists the sky, comes back to the beach, finds very nice support from the beach, and now starts getting the higher lows. So very, very similar. And if I was able to hide that, I think you guys would be able to see it much better, but can't do it, so what are you going to do? Okay. As we are getting ready to wrap up the show, looking to see the notes that I have, and any other questions that you are seeing. I've pretty much covered what I would like to.
No, not really. No. Well, there's one very specific question, but I think I'm gonna, and I promised Nick that you will cover that in the private chat group. It's about the indicator, very specific. So I don't think that this is needed for the live stream. No, I don't have any other questions right now.
All right, great. Well, thank you very much for joining. It's been another great show, and it's always awesome having you keeping me company, and also keeping an eye on the chat, snagging the questions. That helps a lot, I think. Do want to make sure everybody's aware I will be doing a webinar here a week from yesterday, next Saturday on June 6th. If you come to Sawcruhteez.com, you can click on the webinar link at the top, and that's going to bring you over, give you a rundown of what to expect. If you are planning on attending, then I am strongly encouraging people to come as prepared as possible, and best way to do that is to review the video on YouTube that covers the release of the indicator in depth. And then the best resource for this indicator is available here on this site, Sawcruhteez.com/trader-mode. Below the video, have put together a number of charts. I think there's 15 charts. There's a practice trade that was happening in real time as I was writing the article. And then all the charts that will walk through exactly what every level is signaling, what is meant to, what you're meant to do in different zones. And this will allow you to really, this has all the information that you need to trade the new MSR trader mode. If you go through these charts, you'll have what you need. And we'll just be going significantly more in depth during the webinar to share exact trading rules and subconditions, as well as a daily process for how to effectively execute the rules. And then there will be follow-up session about 5 weeks after the original session to see how things are going. We'll be very focused on Q&A, and in the interim we'll be sharing my daily process and how I go about analyzing charts on a day-to-day basis to make sure that I am executing signals as effectively as possible. So those that are coming to the webinar and those that are just interested in the indicator, I would suggest you to come over and read through all of this material. It's a lot, but it is, I think, very valuable, and I do think this will be kind of the foundation for a book on MSR, which I absolutely will be writing at some point, and this will be the foundation, the meat and potatoes of what would be a potential book on MSR. So that will cover everything that I wanted to go over. We'll go ahead and stop screen share, and we'll thank Daisy again for joining us and doing for such a great job of gathering questions beforehand, and then also keeping an eye on the chat and making sure to keep me honest with my analysis. And it's been a pleasure doing these regular shows with you, and so thanks again for making the time for us.
Yeah, you're very welcome, and I enjoy doing this. I have to keep my eye on multiple screens and my phone for for everybody who's texting me. But yeah, I think we did a great job again. I think everybody had their answers to their questions, and hopefully we're gonna do it again next week.
Absolutely right.
In the meantime, let's see what the market does, right?
That's
Because
right.
you never know.
Never know. And with
Yeah.
that being said, it's the only thing that you do know is that it is crucial to manage risk. So everybody out there, please, no matter how excited you are to test out either my new indicator or somebody else's, please, the number one thing that is most important is risk management. If you can effectively manage risk, then you can keep your head above water long enough to figure out how to make money in the long term, as long as you are the type of person that has what it takes. So thanks again for everybody tuning in. Would appreciate everybody smashing the like button, leaving comments. Everybody that has participated in the chat, appreciate that. And if you are able to share this channel and this stream with anybody who you think would enjoy the analysis, we will be doing regular shows on Sunday at this time, starting at 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So thanks again, Daisy, for joining us, and we will plan on catching everybody next week.
Yeah, and I have to say, doei.
Doei.
You forgot it the last 2 streams. That's bye in Dutch. Doei.
Doei.